I'm 75. The one choice that gave me peace of morning light filtered through the kitchen window, soft and golden, the way it only does at 6 in the morning when the world hasn't fully woken yet. I was 75 years old, standing at the counter with a cup of coffee going cold in my hands, staring at a photograph I hadn't looked at in years. It was tucked inside an old recipe book my wife had kept, yellowed at the edges, creased down the middle. In it, my daughter was 7, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a drawing she'd made at school. I was in the background, barely visible, a blur of a man walking past, briefcase in hand, already halfway up the door. I didn't remember that moment. I didn't remember most of them. And that realization, standing there in the quiet of my kitchen, was like a stone dropping into still water, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew about the life I'd lived. I grew up believing that success was measured in milestones. Graduate with honors, land the good job, climb the ladder, provide for your family. My father had worked himself to the bone in a factory, coming home every night with oil under his fingernails and exhaustion in his eyes, and I swore I'd do better. I'd wear a suit, I'd have an office, I'd give my kids everything he couldn't give me. So I did. I worked 60, 70 hours a week. I traveled for business, I closed deals, I brought home promotions and raises and the respect of colleagues who barely knew my first name. I bought the house with the big backyard. I paid for piano lessons and summer camps and college tuition. I thought I was winning. I thought I was doing exactly what a good man, a good father, was supposed to do. But my daughter didn't need piano lessons. She needed me to sit on the bench beside her and listen when she played. My son didn't need the expensive baseball glove. He needed me in the stands, cheering when he struck out, not just when he hit a home run. My wife didn't need the vacations I promised we'd take someday. She needed me present at the dinner table, not distracted, not counting down the minutes until I could get back to my emails. I missed it all, not because I didn't care, but because I had convinced myself that caring meant providing, and providing meant absence. I thought love was something you proved with a paycheck, the years folded into each other, fast and unforgiving. My daughter grew up and moved across the country. My son got married to a woman I barely knew because I hadn't been around enough to know her. My wife and I shared a house but lived separate lives, orbiting each other like distant planets, polite and gentle and heartbreakingly disconnected. I told myself it was normal, that this was what happened when you got older, that everyone drifted apart. But the truth I didn't want to admit, was that I had built the distance myself. One missed dinner, one cancelled weekend, one I'll be there next time at a time. Then, 3 years ago, I had a heart attack. It wasn't the dramatic kind you see in movies, where someone clutches their chest and collapses. It was quiet, a tightness, a strange pressure. I was at my desk, working late as always, when it happened. I drove myself to the hospital, stubborn as ever, convinced it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. The doctor, a young woman who couldn't have been older than my son, sat me down and told me I was lucky. Lucky to be alive. Lucky it hadn't been worse. She asked me about stress, about my lifestyle, about what I did to take care of myself. I didn't have good answers. She looked at me with something like pity and said, you know, the body keeps score. You can't outrun it forever. I spent for days in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the beep of machines and the shuffle of nurses in the hallway. My wife came, of course. She sat beside me, holding my hand, and I realized it was the first time in years we'd spent more than an hour together without the television on. My son flew in, took time off work, sat in the chair by the window and talked about his life, his kids, the things I'd missed. My daughter called every day, her voice thick with worry, asking when I'd be home, telling me she loved me. And I heard it, really heard it, maybe for the first time in decades. And in those 4 days, in that sterile, fluorescent-lit room, I understood something that should have been obvious all along. I had spent my entire life preparing for a future that was already passing me by. When I got home, I made a choice. Not a loud one, not a dramatic reinvention, just a quiet, deliberate decision that changed everything. I retired. I didn't phase out. I didn't ease into it. I just stopped. My colleagues were shocked. My financial advisor told me it wasn't the smartest move. My own voice, the one that had driven me for 50 years, whispered that I was giving up, that I was quitting, that I was less of a man for stepping away. But I didn't listen. For the first time in my life, I chose presence over productivity. I chose time over achievement. I chose peace over the endless, exhausting race I'd been running since I was 25 years old. The first few weeks were strange. I didn't know what to do with myself. I wandered around the house, restless and unmoored, checking my phone out of habit even though there were no emails that mattered anymore. But slowly, quietly, life began to reveal itself in ways I'd forgotten existed. I started waking up with my wife, making her coffee, sitting with her while she read the paper. We talked, not about bills or schedules or whose turn it was to call the plumber. We talked about memories, about dreams we'd had when we were young, about the trip to Italy we'd always said we'd take. And 2 months later, we went. We walked through Rome hand in hand like newlyweds, and I felt a kind of lightness I hadn't felt in 40 years. I called my daughter every Sunday, not because I needed something, not because there was news to share, just to hear her voice, to ask about her work, her partner, the garden she was planting. She was surprised at first, cautious, like she didn't quite trust that I'd keep showing up. But I did, week after week, and slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something I thought I'd lost forever. My son invited me to his son's soccer games, and I went. Every single one. I sat on the cold metal bleachers and cheered, and my grandson, a kid who barely knew me a year ago, started running to me after the game, sweaty and grinning, asking if I saw his goal. I saw it. I saw all of it. The photograph, the one with my daughter holding up her drawing, became a kind of talisman for me. I kept it on the kitchen counter, propped against the coffee maker, where I'd see it every morning. It reminded me of what I'd almost lost, of the man I'd been, always moving, always elsewhere, always just out of frame. But it also reminded me that it wasn't too late, that even at 75, even after decades of getting it wrong, I could still choose differently. I could still show up. People ask me sometimes if I regret my career, if I wish I'd done things differently from the start. The honest answer is yes. Of course I do. I regret the soccer games I missed, the bedtime stories I didn't read, the anniversaries I was too busy to celebrate properly. I regret the years I spent believing that love was something you earned through sacrifice and absence, rather than something you gave through presence and attention. But regret, I've learned, isn't useful unless it teaches you something. And what it taught me is this: there is no achievement, no promotion, no amount of money or recognition or success that will ever matter more than the people you love. Not one. The peace I have now, the kind that settles deep in your bones and lets you sleep through the night, didn't come from doing more. It came from letting go, from releasing the idea that my worth was tied to my productivity, from accepting that I didn't need to be exceptional or admired or remembered by strangers. I just needed to be here, fully here, with the people who mattered, with the life I'd been given. I think about time differently now. I used to see it as something to manage, to optimize, to fill with tasks and goals and accomplishments. Now I see it for what it really is, the most precious, unrepeatable gift we have. You don't get it back, not a single minute. And the hours you spend chasing things that don't love you back are hours you'll never spend with the people who do. I'm 75 years old, and I can't undo the past. I can't go back and be the father I should have been when my kids were young. I can't reclaim the decades I spent half present, half distracted, always thinking the next thing would finally be enough. But I can be here now. I can make breakfast for my wife and listen when she talks. I can call my daughter and tell her I'm proud of her. I can sit in the bleachers at my grandson's games and be the man in the foreground, not the blur in the background. The one choice that gave me peace wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a dramatic change or a sudden epiphany. It was the simple, quiet decision to stop running and start living. To stop proving and start being. To stop waiting for a someday and realize that today, this ordinary and remarkable today, is all we're ever promised. If you're reading this, wherever you are in your life, I want you to ask yourself, what are you chasing? And is it worth what you're giving up to catch it? Because I promise you, the things that matter most, the things that will bring you peace when you're 75 and staring at an old photograph in your kitchen, aren't the things you achieve. They're the moments you choose to be present for, the people you choose to love fully, the life you choose to live. Not someday, but right now. I'm 75, and for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.